Brought to you by Penguin.
Hello, I'm Susan Jeffers, and welcome to this abridged audio program of The Feel the Fear Guide to Lasting Love. My greatest desire in writing this book was to bring you a better understanding of the meaning of real love, and to show you how to incorporate the essence of this kind of love in your daily interactions with your present or future mate. A definite lack of understanding about the meaning of real love is reflected in the high rate of divorce and the large number of people who are asking with a deep yearning in their hearts, why is love so hard? Over the years, I have come to be known as an expert on love, but it is important for you to know that it took me a while to gain the understanding I now have. While I have a number of university degrees, most of my meaningful knowledge about real love came from personal experience. My first marriage of 16 years ended in divorce. And then there were the 12 years of dating before I married again. Looking back, what a great training ground all those years turned out to be. As a result of the important lessons I learned, my second marriage of 19 years, as I speak these words, is truly wonderful. You may be thinking that the success of my second marriage simply has to do with the differences between the two men I married. While it is true that my first and second husbands are very different indeed, their differences do not necessarily explain the demise of my first marriage and the success of my second. What does explain it is the fact that I am totally different in my second marriage from the person that I was in my first marriage. Yes, it was me that had to learn how to love before I could create a healthy relationship. And learning how to love is what this program is all about. The process looks like this. First, you have to discover the bad habits that destroy love. Then you have to break these destructive habits and replace them with the good habits that keep love alive and thriving. Little by little, the good replaces the bad, and an entirely different picture of love emerges. What I present here is an ideal way of being in love. Because we are all human, we won't always get it right. But as we begin including in our lives more and more components of a beautiful love, we begin to understand the joy, satisfaction, peace, and caring that real love can bring. I have included in this program many exercises that can help your relationship thrive, and many more in the actual book. Remember that this is a step-by-step journey. Begin with those exercises that feel right to you. Slowly make them a part of your life. By the way, you may not agree with everything I say. Not to worry. As I always suggest, take what works for you and let the rest go. You will notice that I use the terms mate, lover, and partner interchangeably to refer to the person you love, whether you are married or not, whether you are in a male-female or same-sex relationship, or whether you are in a new or long-term relationship. All the principles apply, no matter what form your relationship takes. It's all about love. Don't be put off by my frequent use of the word power. By power, I don't mean control over others. I mean control over our own actions and reactions, which is a very good thing. Without that power, we are run by fear and a sense of neediness. Not good for a relationship. You can see why power and love definitely go together. Remember that no matter what the state of your relationship is at the present time, it offers you an incredible opportunity for learning and growing. It is definitely worth all the effort you put into it. Why? A loving relationship feels sublime and brings you great joy. It makes life sweeter and easier. You delight in your ability to give to your mate. You feel abundant as you take in the love that he or she gives to you. Just sharing the journey with someone you love. It doesn't get any better than that. You might be wondering, what does real love really look like? You would have thought that after all this time we would have figured it out. But about real love, many of us are in the dark. And even if we are in a great relationship, life happens, and there always seems to be so much more to learn. One of the reasons real love seems so hard to understand is this. We in Western society have constantly been fed misleading pictures of what real love actually looks like. Let me remind you of what is considered the greatest love story ever told, Romeo and Juliet. A story of two dysfunctional 14-year-olds who would rather kill themselves than obey their parents. How this story became the model of the greatest love story ever told, I will never know. And then there are the fairy tales that omit so many essential truths about love. Think about it. Fairy tales always focus on some version of our hero and heroine falling madly in love, walking off into the distance, and supposedly living happily ever after. But do they live happily ever after? Maybe they do, maybe they don't. We also have to examine the misleading concept of falling in love. Don't we realize that when we fall, we can get hurt? And then there are the multitude of stories we hear about love at first sight. Let's look at it logically. How can you love someone in a romantic sense when you don't even know them? That stranger across a crowded room could be someone you should definitely avoid. The problem is that so-called love at first sight can feel so good while it lasts. I remember it well. I was walking down the street one day in New York City. The freshness of spring was in the air, and all was well. It was during the period between my marriages, and I was feeling particularly free and happy. At some point, I noticed an extremely handsome man walking in my direction. He was hard to miss. Our eyes connected, and wow! All my passionate urges came to the fore. We maintained eye contact until we passed each other by. I smiled, took a deep breath, and said to myself, "What was that?" I had walked only a few steps further when I felt someone tap me on the shoulder. I turned around, and there we were, face to face. At that very moment, it happened. We fell in love. And thus began one of the most passionate and crazy 6 months of my life. But alas, as time went by, whatever created this passionate and crazy attraction wore off. The spell was broken. And as always happens when the spell is broken, we woke up to reality. Our humanness was revealed to each of us, and since neither of us understood the process of creating real love, we were soon embroiled in constant bouts of judgment, anger, annoyance, and other such love-destroying emotions. The situation worsened until I reached the point where I no longer wanted him in my life. I remember the relief I felt when I asked him to leave my apartment and never contact me again. As the door shut behind him, I once again smiled, took a deep breath, and said to myself, "What was that?" A very good question indeed. Over the years, I have come to call this kind of love enchanted love. Indeed, enchantment can be defined as a spell that comes over us, and that's exactly what seems to happen when we experience love at first sight. It is mystical, exciting, passionate, and delicious, but it is not real love. I don't have a clue as to why enchanted love occurs, although various theories exist. It is amazingly irrational. What is most confusing is the fact that so many couples who are caught in its spell are definitely not good candidates for a long-term relationship. It is a given that enchanted love always...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?